This video is going to be on section 2.4 on box plots. So box plots are also called box and whisker plots or box whisker plots. And these give us a good graphical image of the concentration of the data. They also show us how far the extreme values are for most of the data. A box plot is constructed from 5 values called the 5-number summary, and that includes the minimum value, which is the smallest one in our set, the first quartile, which we've just talked about, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum value, which is the largest one in the set. So to construct a box plot by hand, you would use a horizontal or vertical number line and a rectangular box. So here we have our horizontal number line. You want to make sure that the spaces between the numbers are evenly scaled. Otherwise, it doesn't really show us what we want to see. This one has added 11.5, so that's where this point is going to be. We'll talk about it in a second. And we have this rectangular box, the box, and then we have these two lines coming out. Those are the whiskers. So this box plot represents the data over here, the numbers 1, 1, 2, 2, 4, 6, etc. So the smallest and the largest values label the endpoints of the axes if we're doing it by hand. And then that's going to be the whiskers too. But the first quartile marks one end of the box on the lower end, and the third quartile marks the other end of the box. So 50% of our data lies inside the box. So that's how we sort of can see the IQR here. And then the whiskers extend to the smallest, the minimum, and the largest, the maximum data values. Then we have the median or second quartile can be between the first and third quartiles, and that's usually represented by another a dashed line, or maybe it's a solid line. There's some kind of marking to show that that's the median or second quartile. But sometimes, depending on what your data looks like, it might actually overlap with your first quartile or your third quartile. So sometimes you won't have that in there. Okay. The box plot gives us a good quick picture of the data. And you want to remember that 75% of your data falls in each section. So if it's a really short section, that means there's more data close together. If you have a longer section, so it's the same number of data values that are in here. So that 25% of your data is more spread out. And that's what we mean by it giving us a good picture of our data. So we're going to make one in Excel. The following data are the number of pages in 40 books on a shelf. Here are the numbers of pages, and they are ordered smallest to largest. We're going to do a box plot using Excel, and we're going to state the 5-number summary and the interquartile range. So that's what it's going to look like when we're done. So I'm going to pop over here to just keep moving myself around, our box plot. So we are going to highlight our data like we always do. We are going to go to Insert, and it's under the same tab as our histograms, and we're going to click on Box and Whisker. I'm just going to slide it over here. I'm going to shrink it up a little bit. And then again, we always want to change our title. So this is number of pages in books, for example. Nope. And here we have our box plot. So this is our minimum value. This is our maximum value. This is Q1. This is Q2. Q3, this line here represents Q2. And then when Excel does our box plots, this little X inside is our average. It's the mean of the data. As you guys know, I love to add my data labels. And one thing that's really nice about box plots is when I add the data labels, again, I have the minimum, Q1, Q2, or the median, Q3, and my maximum. So I can calculate the min, Q1, all those things using formulas in Excel, or I can read them off my box plot. So The minimum is going to be 136, but I want to show you that you can also use the min formula, okay? Returns the smallest number in a set of values. So again, you have to highlight your data, and you'll see it's 136. We've just seen the quartile formulas, so I'm not going to retype that one. It's just going to be 235.5 off of the box plot here. If you're curious about which one of the quartile, I said I wasn't going to, here I am. I believe it's the .exe formula that Excel uses. I need to do comma 1 for my first quartile. 235.5. Let's see what happens if I change that to INC. It's a little bit different. So yeah, it's the .exe. I thought it was, but I wasn't 100% sure. So that's another reason why I like to use the .exe, because it matches what our box plots are. The median formula, again, you can calculate it from your data, which you would have to do if you were doing your box plot by hand. We can just read it right off of our box plot. Q3 is 396.5, and our maximum number of pages is 512. So here's our box plot. Here is our 5-number summary. And then our IQR is easily calculated by taking Q3 minus Q1. Okay, and so we can see that there's 161 pages difference between Q3 and Q1. 50% of our books have pages between 396.5, which obviously is not the number of a page, and 235.5 pages. So I said this before, if you're doing it by hand, it's important to start with a scaled number line, because each of those sections has the same number of data values in it, 25%. If you don't scale your number line correctly, you're going to make those boxes be the wrong size in respect to the others. So it's not as useful to you. Sometimes you'll see box and whisker plots that have dots marking the outlier values. In that case, the whiskers don't go to the minimum or maximum values. They go to the next smallest or largest values. And for some sets of data, we'll be missing pieces. I mentioned this about the median line before, but we might be missing whiskers as well. Sometimes the largest value, smallest value, Q1, median, and Q3 might be the same, and so some of those pieces of our box plots might overlap. So here we have a picture of a box plot that seems to be missing the lower whisker. So if our first quartile and minimum are the same, so like 25% of our data values are the number 1, then our left-hand whisker and the left-hand side of the box would be the same. If the median and the third quartile are the same, then we wouldn't have that dotted line inside the box displaying the median, or the solid line in Excel's case. And then the right side of the box would be both the third quartile and the median. So this box plot here has data where the smallest value and the first quartile are both 1, the median and the third quartile are both 5, and the largest value is 7. So at least 25% of our values are equal to 1. 25% of the values are between 1 and 5 inclusive, so including 1 and 5. And at least 25% of the values are equal to 5. The top 25% of the values lie between 5 and 7 inclusive. So box plots that are missing pieces are a little less helpful to they're just harder to understand, whereas when we have the one we did on Excel here, it was really nice. Here's our minimum, our Q1. It's actually really nicely spread out. It doesn't seem like there's not one whisker or one piece of the box that's super long or super short. So I like this box plot a lot. This one's a little more difficult to interpret. Here's another example. Test scores for a college statistics class held during the day are these test scores. And then we also have the same class at night, and they have these test scores. So we are going to construct a box plot using Excel for each data set and state which box plot has the wider spread for the middle 50% of the data. I wanted to do this example because it's nice sometimes to have, if you have two sets of data, to put them together on a box plot. I'm going to show you, we've looked at doing the transpose paste, and we can definitely do that here because we have data in these rows, not in columns. But you can actually just highlight everything here. Let's see if I can. And do your box plot right from here. Sometimes it works out. And so I'll go back over here to insert and I'll choose my box plot. I'll give you a little caveat here. So I'm just going to scooch this over so we can kind of see the data as well a little bit. You'll notice a couple of funny things here. So there are those dots. Excel considers these 2 points to be outliers, okay? So our data isn't sorted. It's a little bit harder to check what those values are. I mean, I can actually click on the box and I can find out what those values are. I can add my data labels, right? So 45 and 25.5, that's a pretty low score. So the weird thing about box plots in Excel, this horizontal axis, it just gives us the number 1. It doesn't necessarily tell us which one is which. These guys down here, series 1 point, I was trying to click on it. It's just hard to do. I think that's because I highlighted those little titles as well. So if you didn't like this, if it wasn't the way you wanted it to look, you could definitely copy this data and paste it in a column, sort it first. Just know there's some things that you can do horizontally in Excel as well as vertically, and some things that have to just be vertical. I just want you to see that. So it's also kind of hard. It's a little jammed in here to see those different values. So let's do it the other way. Okay, so let me I'm just gonna grab all these, and remember, I'm gonna right click and copy. And then over here, I'm gonna put, this is my day class, so I'm gonna paste transpose this. This is day, and then this will be night. And again, a lot of what I do are things that you can do, but you don't have to do. You'll be thinking about your situation and what you want it to look like. I am going to just sort that quick because it's highlighted. It's going to ask me if I want to continue with that current selection. Yes, please. And then I'm going to sort the daytime one. Okay. And now when I highlight my data, okay, and I insert that chart, which I just did a minute ago, it's up to you whether you think that's easier, better, clearer, all these different things that we're interested in. So, but before, maybe you were like, wait, I don't know which data set is which. And now, see, I'm missing those two weird things down at the bottom because I don't have the titles highlighted. I am going to I can't add my data. I unclicked it somehow. There are my data labels. So that 25.5 is now very obviously from the night class. I was pretty sure that the first one was the day and the second one was the night, but if you're unsure, you can always just check it. And so you can always, extend this a little bit more, sort of stretch it out. If it's harder to see those values, you can change the number format of this one. So if you right click on that one and you want to format that data label, down here it says number, and you can change it to number and then just say 2 decimal places, and it disappeared. Label position to the right. I think this happened to me the other time too. It really shouldn't be doing that. So We're just going to skip changing that. I'm going to undo. I think the first time I did it, I've just lost all my data labels. Okay, add my data labels. So weird, so weird. Add these data labels. And then, it's just harder to see your IQR, your Q3 and your Q1 when it looks like that. So I can also just get rid of this one because that's my mean and I don't need it for this. But let's calculate our IQR for our day and for our night. So the blue is the day. So that is going to be Q3 minus Q1. Q3 for day was 83.25. Minus Q1 is 56. So I have an IQR for my day class of 27.25. So the middle 50% grades have a spread of 27.25 points. For the night class, it's 89.25 minus 77.5, and that's 11.75. So there is a smaller spread for my middle 50% for my night class. Now, so this was exam scores, I think, or quiz scores. I can, I calculated it so I know the actual numbers, but just by looking at the box plots, that box, the orange box, is so much narrower, so much smaller. So I knew that the IQR was smaller than the day one. So I was able to calculate it because I had the data labels. But, if the question is just which one has the wider spread, I don't really even need to calculate it. I can just view it, and tell that this one has a narrower spread, narrower IQR than the day class does. And then here I calculated them again. So as you can see here, I was able to change the number format when I did this the first time. I think it was because it was that individual data label that it sort of disappeared on me. But we can play around with that in class if you'd like to. So that's box plots and doing the IQR and the visual aspect of it. And that is the end of the 2.4 video.